So in this video, we're going to be introducing AI Blackboard data, and we're going to use that data to specify two patrol points like this that the AI controller will be moving between. You see him running between the world origin at my cursor and some other point in the map. And while he's doing all that, the behavior tree now will be doing something slightly more interesting using a sequence node and moving between these two different points that are specified in two different pieces of Blackboard data. And of course, there's some blueprint that goes along with that. So I will see you in there. So now that we've had a brief look at behavior trees, which are like the methods of your code, they are the behavior or the execution flow of how the artificial intelligence is going to work, let's take a little bit more of a look at the Blackboard. So you may have a self-actor key that's added itself here, probably just because the behavior trees move to wants something to move to. So I'm going to add a new key and make it a vector key because that's the sensible thing to use if we're wanting to specify a position in the world. I'm going to call it world origin. And this is just the 0, 0, 0 point. So that's how I make a vector. Now, this is not obviously setting the value. This is just a description. This is just a hover over description for it. So now we need to talk about how we're going to set the value. So back in the behavior tree, instead of moving to this self-actor thing, we're going to move to this new world origin key. I'm actually going to delete the self-actor key. So we're just left with a vector key, a yellow vector key called world origin. And move to uses that. Now, how do we set the value? Well, you actually set the value inside the blueprint. So let's go to the NPC AI blueprint here. And I'm going to set this value before we run the behavior tree. It kind of makes sense to do that because we want the data available before we try and run the behavior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say use Blackboard, which is a new type of blueprint node. And I'm going to do that straight after begin play. I'm going to specify the Blackboard as the patrol data. Okay, that's cool. Now, I'm going to give myself some more room and just show you how to do this. And then there's going to be a nice exercise where you get to rehearse this yourself. So we're going to use the patrol data Blackboard. Now, we've got a reference to the Blackboard component here. And with that, we can set value as vector. This is how we set these Blackboard values. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll wire up the execution. So how do we set the value? Well, it's string referenced, or more specifically, it's name reference, which is an F name, which is something called a hash of a string. But to all intents and purposes, it's referenced by string. The way we're going to use it is go and grab the actual string name of this world origin. I don't like referencing things by string like this, but it's how it's done. So the good practice is to copy and paste the word world origin. And then in the blueprint, we make, by dragging backwards off the key name, we make a new name, make literal name, and just paste it right in there. So the game begins, we tell it what Blackboard to use, we set a value as a vector. Well, which value, which key, which are the Blackboard keys? Well, there's only one right now and it's called world origin, so you set it by name like this and we'll leave the value as 0, 0, 0. So it's in here that we actually set the Blackboard key. Effectively, these two nodes do it. You could put a comment around those two, set Blackboard key. The only thing is it's kind of confusing unless we drag things out what's going on. So why not space it out a little bit? So you use a Blackboard, you set the Blackboard key, and then you run the behavior tree. Cool. All right, let's see that working now. If we play the game, what does he do? He kind of hovers or slides himself to 0, 0, 0. So why is he sliding? Let's deal with that first. Well, if you click on the instance here in the world, the third-person character, it has a section called animation. And previously, to get the animation working, we forced him to continually use a particular animation asset, which was the third-person idle. Now we're going to revert back to doing it the other way, which is to use the animation blueprint that he has got with him. We'll delve into the details of animation blueprints later, but let's just go back to using the default third-person animation blueprint like that. And then what will happen is when we play, he will actually choose his animation state, let's show you that again, based on what he's doing. He runs to the origin, 0, 0, 0. If we depossess and click on him, we can confirm he is close to the origin. He's not actually at the origin exactly, and the reason for that is that when we asked him to do a move to in here, you'll see that it's got an acceptable radius here of 5. So it's a question of what you set as this acceptable radius. If we set that down to, say, well, even 0, then you run again, and then we depossess and find out where he ends up, you'll find he may be a bit closer, but he's still a little bit away, particularly in Z. He's only 20 or 30 centimeters away in X and Y, but in Z, his origin has to be not at 0, 0, 0, because look, his Z origin, his up and down, is at his hip, and that is never going to be in the 0, 0, 0 position, which is at the floor or just under the floor. All right, so I'm just going to reset that acceptable radius. I just wanted to show you that, where that comes into, say, 5 centimeters like that. And this is a very different way, you may have noticed, of doing AI to how we did it in BattleTank. In BattleTank, we still had all this going on behind the scenes, but we circumvented this whole behavior tree thing. And that was because we wanted to force the AI tanks to move in a very specific way using the controller. And it also allowed me to hide all this detail from you until this section. But this is the standard way of doing things. So we just moved to the world origin. The other thing to show you is that if you go over to the behavior tree here while it's running, you can actually see what it's doing, especially if you do it quick enough. Click play, click over, and you can see its selector, and then it was going to move to, and then it stopped. It's going to be a lot clearer once we have a second node down here under the selector, and that's what I want you to do right now. I want you to patrol between 2 points. Modify the behavior tree, use the sequence node instead of the selector node, because remember that the selector node does one thing and then stops running altogether. So he'd move to the origin, then stop. We want to use the sequence node so that we repeatedly move to the origin and then to a second location that you're going to specify somewhere nearby inside the map, a few meters away. And in total, you're going to need to use 2 Blackboard keys. Just create 1 new Blackboard key so that we have 2 in total, the world origin and his second patrol point. So go ahead, pause the video and see if you can make that work now. Okay, welcome back. So this will be great revision of how to do this, and let's take a look. So how are we going to do it? Well, the first thing we're going to need really is to start at the Blackboard. We're going to need a new vector for this patrol point, something like that. And it's called patrol point, and somewhere else to go. Just to get in the habit of putting comments in. We'll talk about what instance synced means later. It's not relevant until we have multiple AI controllers in the game. But we have this second key called patrol point. Fantastic. Now, what would be the easiest way of setting this second Blackboard key? Well, it would really be just to copy this entire section here, not just the comment like I just did there, but you need to highlight the whole lot, duplicate it by right-clicking. If you can do it like that, yep, you've got to click in the right place, duplicate, and then you can move the whole thing over here. And what this just allows us to do, it's a little bit messy, to be honest, doing it this way. It may be easier to just select these 2 nodes, move the behavior tree out here, and duplicate just them. You'll get the idea of duplicating nodes. Now, the reason I'm duplicating them and then rewiring this execution flow is because what we're doing this second time is very similar. But instead of going to world origin, we're going to be going to patrol point. Remember, use cut and paste. And we're going to use a different value. Now, the way I'm going to discover my value is like this. I'm just going to click on this dude. I'm going to use this particular selector point here. So you see that the X and Y arrows have gone yellow if I go there. And then I can move him along the floor to say here. Notice roughly what the value is. 700 by 400 would do it. And I'm just going to remember that value. Put him back somewhere else, doesn't matter where. And I'm going to say 700, 400. We don't have to worry that the Z is at his feet. He will sort that out. The AI controller will sort that out. So all we've done there is set a second value, which means that in the Blackboard here, both of these values end up as set. All right, now in the behavior tree, we're going to then need to change the selector for a sequence node, as I said. Now you can see the difference because you put it in and then you hover over it and it tells you the difference. And once the sequence node is in, we then move to world origin, and then we're going to do another move to. Move directly towards, by the way, ignores the navigation system, not a good idea at the moment. And the Blackboard key, the piece of data we're going to move to here, is the patrol point. So let's firstly observe the behavior. Oh, there's a compiler error, so let's have a look. What's the problem in here? Now the problem here is I didn't wire up the target. It needs to know what it is setting the value on. Which Blackboard am I setting the value on? So you need to pull that Blackboard target through. Okay, so we end up with this. Now let's try. There he is. He runs to the 0, 0, 0 point, runs over there, runs back, runs over there, runs back. Now, if I depossess and go and have a look at the patrol behavior tree, look what's happening. He's moving to the origin, to the patrol point, to the origin, to the patrol point. So, well done. He's running back and forth. That's great. This is obviously not a sustainable way of continuing to add waypoints or patrol points to the system. So I'm going to show you shortly how to do this in a much more scalable and sustainable way. I'm just going to comment this second bit, set second key, spread things out a little bit, And then again, I'm going to make my commit inside source tree here after having saved all. And then close Unreal. I'll then make my commit. But I'll do that after I've finished recording. So I'll see you in the next video.